After spending a decade working in finance and banking, I kept seeing the same pattern over and over again. People who were earning decent money, sometimes very good money, but still felt completely lost when it came to managing their own finances. And the reason wasn't that they weren't smart. It was that nobody had ever walked them through the basics in a way that actually made sense. So that's exactly what this video is. This is your complete financial glow-up. A step-by-step breakdown of everything you need to go from feeling overwhelmed by money to actually feeling in control of it. Whether you're starting from zero or just need a reset, this is for you. Let's dive in. Let's start with the word that makes most people immediately switch off: budgeting. I get it. It sounds restrictive. It sounds boring, like you're signing up to never enjoy your money again. But here's a number that should change your perspective. Only 59% of Americans feel confident enough to even create a budget. And I'd argue that's not because budgeting is hard. It's because nobody ever showed them how to do it properly. Here's the truth about budgeting that nobody talks about. Without a budget, saving just becomes something you hope happens at the end of the month, instead of something you actually make happen. And hope is not a financial strategy. So let's fix that right now, step by step. The very first thing you need to do is get clear on how much money you're actually working with each month. And this is where most people make their first mistake. If you're an employee with a salary, don't take your annual number and divide it by 12. That's not what hits your bank account. Instead, use the amount you take home after taxes, your net pay. There's also space to account for other income sources like freelancing, side hustles, dividends, or rental income. So if your job pays you $2,350 per month after tax and you earn another $250 from a side hustle, your real working income is $2,600. That is the number you build everything from. Getting this right at the very start is everything. If you're self-employed, there's something critical you need to know before you write down your income. Your money hasn't been taxed yet, so before you add any figure to your budget, you need to subtract your estimated tax first. I know how tempting it is to look at everything landing in your bank account and feel like all of it is yours, and then figure out the tax stuff later. But here's what actually happens. You end up budgeting on numbers that aren't real, money that isn't actually yours, and then the tax bill arrives and derails everything. So do yourself a future favor. Subtract the tax first, budget on what's left, and put the rest aside. That discipline will save you enormous stress down the road. Once you know your income, the next step is to look at where your money is actually going. And I want to introduce you to a framework that completely changed how I think about money. I call it the three-bucket system. Here's how it works. Bucket 1 is your fundamentals: rent or mortgage, groceries, bills, car payments, everything you'd still need to pay if you lost your income tomorrow. Bucket 2 is fun, things that aren't essential but make life enjoyable: eating out, holidays, gym memberships, streaming services, clothes beyond the basics. And bucket 3 is future you: emergency fund contributions, extra debt payments, retirement savings. Once you start thinking about your money this way, the leaks become obvious almost immediately. Now that you understand the three buckets, let's talk about how much should go into each one. You've probably heard of the 50-30-20 rule. The idea is simple. 50% of your take-home pay goes to fundamentals, 30% to fun, and 20% to future you. It's a clean, easy-to-remember framework. And honestly, as a starting point, it's brilliant because it immediately shows you where the imbalances are. If you're spending 70% on fundamentals and only 5% on future you, that tells you something really important. If your fun spending is way higher than you realized, that's useful too. The 50-30-20 rule is best used as a diagnostic tool, a mirror that shows you exactly what's happening with your money before you decide what to change. Here's something important I need you to hear, especially if you just looked at your numbers and your fundamentals are eating up 60%, 70%, or even 80% of your budget. Take a breath. That does not mean you're failing. The 50-30-20 rule became popular about 20 years ago when the gap between the average income and the cost of living was much wider than it is today, Rent was cheaper, energy bills were lower, your money just went further. So if 50% on fundamentals feels completely unreachable right now, that is not a personal failing. It's a reflection of economic reality for a lot of people. A split like 65-20-15 or even 70-20-10 might make far more sense for where you actually are today. Start there and work toward the ideal over time. Once you've categorized your spending into the three buckets, the next step is to go through each line and get honest with yourself. And I want to be really clear about something. I'm not saying cut everything you enjoy. That's not what this is about. But if your expenses are high, you will probably need to make some changes, even small ones. Canceling a couple of subscriptions you forgot you were paying for, being more intentional about impulse purchases, choosing to cook at home 1 or 2 extra nights a week. Individually, none of these feel dramatic, but combined, they can free up $100, $150, even $200 a month, and that money can go straight into the future you bucket instead. Small leaks, when plugged consistently, create big change over time. Once people understand the three buckets, the question I hear most often is, okay, but where do I actually start? Because suddenly you're looking at an emergency fund, debt repayments, retirement savings, and a house deposit, all at the same time. And if you're working with a tight income or starting from scratch, that list feels genuinely overwhelming. So let me give you an order, a clear sequence that takes the confusion out of it. You don't have to do everything at once, you just need to know what to do next. And the single most important thing to do first, before anything else, is build a basic emergency fund. Not because it's the most exciting goal, but because without it, every other plan you make is sitting on sand. Here's why the emergency fund has to come before almost everything else. Without any buffer in place, you are one unexpected event away from having your entire financial plan unravel. A car repair, a medical bill, a broken boiler. Any one of those things, which could easily cost between $500 and $1,000, could wipe out your progress instantly. And if you don't have the cash, you put it on a credit card. Now you're paying interest on top of everything else, and one bad week has just turned into 6 months of setbacks. The emergency fund is a financial circuit breaker. It absorbs the shocks, so your long-term plans don't have to. It's not glamorous. It doesn't feel exciting to save for, but it is the single most protective thing you can do for yourself financially. When people decide to build an emergency fund, they often set the most ambitious target they can think of: 6 months of expenses, a year's salary. And while those are great long-term goals, starting there is one of the most common reasons people give up before they've even begun. The target feels so distant that it stops feeling real. So instead, I want you to start with just 1 month of your core fundamental expenses, not your full spending, just the essentials: rent, bills, groceries, transport. For most people, that number is close enough to feel achievable, but big enough to cover the majority of short-term emergencies. And once you hit it, the momentum you feel is powerful. That first win makes everything that comes after it feel possible. Now here's something that genuinely surprises a lot of people, including me when I first came across it. Depending on your situation, it might actually make more sense to tackle high-interest debt before you focus on building your emergency fund. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but think about it this way. If you have high-interest debt, that balance is growing every single month, whether you're paying attention to it or not. So while you're slowly building your emergency fund, your debt could be getting bigger in the background and costing you more than you're actually saving. In that case, paying down the debt first reduces the interest piling up and frees up more of your income faster. Once the debt is gone, building your emergency fund becomes much more efficient. So how do you actually pay off debt? There are two main strategies, and which one works best depends on your personality. The first is the avalanche method. This is where you put any extra money toward the debt with the highest interest rate first, while paying only the minimum on everything else. Once that debt is cleared, you move to the next highest interest rate, and so on. Mathematically, this is the most efficient approach. It minimizes the total interest you pay and gets you completely debt-free in the shortest amount of time. If you have high-interest credit card debt or personal loans with steep rates, this is the method I'd recommend. It requires patience, because the progress can feel slow at first, but the long-term savings are significant. The second debt strategy is called the snowball method. Instead of targeting the highest interest rate, you focus on your smallest debt first, regardless of its rate. Once that's paid off, you take what you were paying on it and add it to the next smallest debt and keep rolling that payment forward. It's not the most efficient approach mathematically, but there's a reason so many people swear by it. Because that first paid off debt gives you a real psychological win. And that feeling of momentum is incredibly powerful, especially when the journey feels long. Neither method is wrong. If logic and numbers motivate you, go avalanche. If you need to feel progress quickly to stay on track, go snowball. What matters most is that you pick one and stick to it. Once you've cleared your high-interest debts and you've got that initial buffer in place, it's time to go back and build your emergency fund properly, all the way to 3 to 6 months of your core fundamental expenses. So if your essentials cost $2,000 a month in rent, bills, groceries, and transport, your full emergency fund target is somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000. You might want more than this if your income fluctuates, if you have children, or if financial anxiety is something you genuinely struggle with. And yes, this will take time. It might take months. It might take a couple of years. But every single deposit makes you more secure than you were before. Treat this as a marathon, not a sprint. Where you keep your emergency fund matters more than most people realize. You want it somewhere accessible enough that you can reach it in a genuine emergency, but not so accessible that you're tempted to dip into it every time you see something you want. The ideal setup is a high-yield savings account that allows penalty-free withdrawals without needing to give notice. That way, your money is at least growing a little while it sits there. And here's one of my favorite practical tips. Keep your emergency fund in a completely separate bank account from your everyday spending account. It's still there when you need it, but you're not seeing that balance every time you check your spending. That small psychological distance makes a surprisingly big difference to how protected the fund stays. Once your emergency fund is solid and your debt is under control, it's time for the most exciting part of your financial glow-up, deciding what you actually want your money to do for you long-term. And this looks different for everyone. Maybe you want to buy a home, and it makes sense to save your deposit in a tax-efficient account designed specifically for first-time buyers. Maybe you want to increase your retirement contributions or start building wealth through investing. Whatever your goals are, the key is to get specific about them. Not, I want to save more, but I want $20,000 for a house deposit in 3 years. Specific goals with specific timelines are the ones that actually get funded. Vague goals are the ones that stay wishes. For a lot of people, this is the point where investing starts to enter the conversation. And if you've never invested before, I completely understand the hesitation. It can feel like a world full of jargon designed to keep regular people out. But here's the truth. Investing doesn't have to be complicated, and you don't need a lot of money to start. What you do need is clarity on what types of accounts are available to you, what you're actually investing in, and how to avoid the most common beginner mistakes that quietly cost people thousands. The earlier you start, even with small amounts, the more time your money has to compound and grow. And the power of compounding over decades is genuinely one of the most effective wealth-building tools available to anyone, regardless of income. Here's the thing that nobody talks about enough when it comes to personal finance. The numbers are actually the easy part. The hard part is the mindset. It's the discomfort of looking at a debt balance you've been avoiding. It's resisting the impulse buy when you're stressed. It's choosing future you over present you, over and over again. But here's what I want you to remember every time it feels hard, every time you build your budget, every time you make a debt payment, every time you transfer money into savings. You are proving to yourself that you are capable of managing your money, and that proof compounds, just like interest does. The confidence you build by keeping small commitments to yourself is the foundation that everything else gets built on. Let's bring it all together. Your financial glow-up starts with knowing your real income, after tax, after deductions. Then you map your spending into 3 buckets: fundamentals, fun, and future you. You use the 50-30-20 rule as a guide, not a rigid rule, and adjust it to your reality. You build a basic 1-month emergency buffer first, Tackle high-interest debt using either the avalanche or snowball method, then build your full 3 to 6 month emergency fund. After that, you move on to longer-term goals, a home, retirement, investing. None of this happens overnight, but done step by step in the right order, it absolutely works. If this video helped you, share it with someone who needs it. And if you're ready to take the next step with investing, the link to the free workshop is in the description. See you there.